Well, in exchange for your hour and 15 minutes or however long we go, um, hopefully you will receive a return on that investment. And the return will be that it saves you 5 hours or 10 hours or 40 hours or 80 hours a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks of work throughout the semester. And then that will just be on repeat for all future semesters to come. Um, I hope to give you some very actionable takeaways from this session. I like seeing how the sign language interpreters interpret my tone. It's kind of fun. You're doing a great job. Thank you, Amanda. Yep. So I liked this thing that B did in the previous session on Conmigo. Maybe some of you were in that Conmigo session. But let's just really quickly in the chat put down your level of engagement, how frequently you use AI. 0 would be you're never doing it. And 5 is like, it's like a whole new thing. It's a new relationship in your life. And it's you're doing it all the time. So where are you? 0 to 5. 5 all the time, 0, nothing. Cool. So we have a 5, 2, 3, 1, 5, 5, 7, 10, 11, 16, 17, 19, 21, 23, 24, 25, 25 out of 10. So we're at about a 2.5 average for the entire 11 of you, 10 of you that responded when I added that up. And then the next one was a 3. So we're at about 2.5 as a group, which means there's some people who are zeros, and there's I saw 1 5 in that mix. Jonathan, all the time, huh? You want to jump in here, and anytime you want to jump in, Jonathan, and share some insights. Maybe you know some stuff I don't know. Is there anything that anybody would like to learn in particular? Feel free to just go ahead and say that in person, or you could put it into the chat. So jump in if you wanted to jump in, if there's anything in particular you're curious about. You have a Starbucks there, William? William's looking for his mic off button. He's got the big Starbucks logo behind him. Looks like he's enjoying
Yes.
time in the sun. Very nice. Looks like a nice place to be. All right. All the time savers, all of them. So one of the big takeaways from this, I'm going to give you a couple of big takeaways. So if you have a pen and a piece of paper or some sort of a notepad on your device, why don't you get that up and you could write this down. And the first big takeaway is to integrate AI into your workflows. And that might seem obvious to some. It might even seem obvious to me. But that is a step in something that we call in information systems, the systems development lifecycle, where you actually consciously just step back and look at how is a current system running and what can I do to change or improve this system. So you consciously think about a system that you're using. So currently we all have a system for how we do our job as educators. And the first big takeaway is to engage, embark, initiate, activate in your own life this conscious step of reflecting upon how can I integrate AI tools into my current system, my current workflow, the current way I do my job as an educator. So that's the first big takeaway. And it's something that you could do, on your own time after this session. But just to share with you a little bit about what emerged for me when I reflected upon that and how I've integrated AI into my current workflow system as an educator. I'll give you some insight into that. But one of the things that I do, and because there's a new push for regular substantive interaction, RSI, and online courses, and of course, the more we could do that in our regular courses, the better it'll be for everybody. But one of the ways I integrate AI into my workflow is I have it draft a weekly letter for the students. And it's like, hey, welcome to this week. This is what we're going to be doing this week. And it provides an overview of what is going to be happening. and some ways that you could do that. And we're going to learn some skills for crafting better prompts. And I saw it's kind of neat to see actually people starting to teach about this and to integrate, to see the similarities between different teachings and see like, okay, these are common principles that are starting to be taught about how to use these tools. But one of the things we're going to learn in this session is how to create good chats. And to create good chats, I'm going to put this into our chat. You want to give when you're creating your prompt, you want to give context, and then you want to give a goal, and then you want to clarify, right? Or give more clarity. And these might go by different words that when you're talking to different people. And then you want to specify the output. And so that's kind of like a general framework for creating a good prompt. And was there anybody that was in my earlier session by any chance? If so, you're going to get a little bit of redundancy, and also maybe I'll talk about things in slightly different ways. But when you put into, AI engine, when you're talking with an AI engine, a big paradigm shift. So this is another takeaway. So we're hitting 3 takeaways here. First takeaway, just to sort of like clarify for what we're learning. First takeaway is consciously integrate AI into your workflows, and we're going to explore that a little bit more here just in a second. So that's the first takeaway. Oh, Alan, welcome back. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for that note. Second takeaway is to have good prompts, and a good prompt will be like context, goal, clarify, output. And so we're going to learn about that framework coming up more. We'll see that in an example. And then the third big takeaway is that this is really a paradigm shift, and we're entering a new era. And this new era was characterized by Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA. NVIDIA makes a lot of the best hardware that creates AI, and it's one of the new trillion-dollar companies. But this new era that we're entering was characterized by the CEO, Jensen Huang, who should know what he's talking about, as a new industrial age. So significant is this new era. And so this new era requires a paradigm shift. And we've all been conditioned and trained to use computers in a certain way over the last 25 years. And part of that conditioning and training is to, when we're searching at Google, make our prompts as short as possible, right? Our search queries. Best apple pie is my go-to example of that. How do we talk with these AI machines? How do we talk with them? And it's different than what we've been conditioned to do. And so what we've been conditioned to do is like, if I wanted to bake an apple pie, I would go to Google and I do apple pie recipe. So we have somewhere between, 25, well, we have like 25 to 28 years, right? The internet started in the late 60s. The World Wide Web started in 93. The World Wide Web hit mass consciousness in the public arena in 1997, 1998. And Google was formed in 1998, I believe. So we've had like 27 to 28 years of being conditioned to conform to the machines. We conform to the machines, right? The machines don't conform to us. We conform to the machines. And we have to conform to the machines in the sense that we create a prompt at search engines. And this is like what I think of as the age of information. So the age of information is all of this information is given to us. And then we have to make sense of it. I have to read this recipe. I have to read this recipe. I look at these recipes here, right? I get all this information, and then I, the human, synthesize it and make sense of it. And I also have to conform to the machine. I have to put in apple pie recipe. Like the shorter the prompt at a search engine, the better. How many people are following me and this is making sense and it's worth your time? Say I, or give me a thumbs up, or just chat, this is good, in the comments. Like, I'm getting my money's worth. This is worth my time. I'm learning something. All right, good. I just want to make sure that I'm delivering value to the audience. It's kind of hard. I'm just in my office by myself talking to my computer screen, And I know Mark Forestier understands the importance of teaching in person and how that's like a slightly different thing. When I do my online courses, I'm often creating videos so I could kind of review it, but this is like the live synchronous video thing is a little bit different than what I'm used to with my style. So that's search engines, ladies and gentlemen. With ChatGPT to create an apple pie, I'm going to have a conversation. So this is like the fundamentals of prompt engineering. Give it context, give it cold, clarify output. And here's the huge paradigm shift. Okay. Old way, age of information way, we conform to the machines. We create a succinct, as short as possible, like prompt for searching, and we get information. We have to synthesize it, make sense of it, right? And the new way is we have a conversation. Okay, we have a conversation. We have a conversation with the machine. This is a huge takeaway right here. If you get nothing else from what I'm sharing here this morning, like just understand that we're in a new era. It's the second industrial revolution, as Jensen Huang said. We're going from the age of information. I call it the age of information. Well, that's what a lot of people call it, the age of information, to what I call, and again, this isn't like something that's in mass consciousness, I call the new age that we're entering the age of understanding. It's a pretty mind-blowing, phenomenal accomplishment that humans have achieved. Okay, because we created the age of information, and then we got more information than we could understand. We're like, I can't understand all this information. Who has time for all this information, right? There's too much information, overload. I can't make sense of it all. Guess what? We created a machine that can make sense of it all. Because in the age of understanding, AI has gone out there. It has already synthesized all of this information. It's gone through it. It's made sense of it. And now I have a friend who is the smartest person, smartest entity in the existence of humanity, right? This friend is available to me 24/7, 365. I can talk with this genius friend of mine anytime about anything. And it's all about having a conversational approach. In the age of information, we conform to the machine. In the age of understanding, the machine conforms to us. What do I mean by that? So I'm going to take all of this right here. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to go into the chat, and I'm just going to put this into the chat. So if anybody wants those notes, they're there in the chat, okay? So what does this mean that the machine now conforms to us? What's that mean? Here we go. You ready? I'm not actually going to quite go into that. So this is the way we'll do it. Hi. Hi, I'm having family over for a party, and my mom loves apple pies. I want to blow her mind and bake her the best apple pie ever. What am I doing here? I'm giving context. I'm talking to the machine like I would talk to a human. I'm talking to it like, I would talk to my best friend, who is the smartest, most genius person to ever exist in the history of humanity, and who's already looked at all of the information that's out there in the world and made sense of all of it. And now I'm just having a conversation with my friend. And the machine is conforming to me. And this is a really different way to ask a question of a machine from the way that we've been conditioned over the last 25 years. Conditioned over the last 25 years, age of information, short and concise. Age of understanding, have a conversation with it like you talk to a human, and the machine is conforming to us as humans. We just use natural language. So hi, I'm having my family over for a party. My mom loves apple pies. I want to blow her mind and bake her the best apple pie ever. Please give me please create for me a recipe for an apple pie that is very innovative and includes things in apple pies that includes ingredients in apple pies that aren't normally included in apple pies. I have heard that some people like cheddar cheese with their apple pies. So maybe the recipe might call for cheddar cheese in it. I just want something which is creative and delicious. When creating a recipe for me that is novel and unique, please consult other recipes that already exist and are well rated. Please also give me directions on how to make the apple pie. And also, I do not like hydrogenated fats. So please don't include any of that in the recipes, because some people like to make crust with Crisco, but that is hydrogenated, and I don't like that because that's unhealthy. And I'm just going to say, does that make sense, or do you need more info from me? Please feel free to ask me questions and clarify if you need any clarification from me. So this is intentionally a super crazy long prompt, okay? Because I just wanted to illustrate how you really have this conversational approach with AI. And if I was to go to Google and put this in to find like an apple pie recipe, like the search engine is not going to know what to do with it. It's just going to be like, here are apple pie recipes, right? So at the search engine, I would have been just as well off to have just say apple pie recipe. I kind of got the same thing. But at ChatGPT, how many people are interested? Like how many people this is new for you? Is this actually less work? It is less work ultimately when you learn this idea that the machines are conforming to you and you could just have conversations with it. Good. We see, I do this all the time. I like that some people already know that. So now I'm just going to put this in. And when I did this previously, because this is an example I've used when I've taught this before, like here's a cheddar crust. But when I did it, a walnut streusel topping, that sounds amazing. And when I did it previously, it had me put miso in the apple pie, which I thought was pretty amazing. And then it gave me some recipe links here. All right, so that's the first thing. So here's another thing that you could do with language models, and I'm just thinking about which direction to go here as our time is limited together. But if, for instance, like I think about this in a business context, you were serving on the board of some corporation and you have to go to board meetings, you could upload all of the documents that board members often receive before they go to board meetings. And then in the meeting in real time, you could be, looking through those documents by asking questions of either ChatGPT or Notebook LM. Where in the documents is this information? Can you give me all the paragraphs and all the documents that speak to this point? And you could even have, before you go to the meeting, you could have ChatGPT look at all the documents and you could say, do a SWOT analysis on, these documents. And when you do your prompt, it's good to give context in your prompt. And it's also good to give a goal. And it's also good to clarify. And it's also good to specify output. So I call that the CGCO kind of framework. And this isn't something that is like, hey, this is what everybody's using. This is just like what I've synthesized about best practices that I've seen for using, different AI tools. But you want to give them some context. So you want to say, hey, I'm a board member at this corporation. I've uploaded some documents. I want to ask you some questions about these documents. My goal is for you to first give me a SWOT analysis on these documents. I have to go to a meeting and I need to be able to point out the strengths of what everybody's doing well. But I also want to point out the weaknesses, right? So here I'm giving context and goal. Can you please also, provide this to me? Because this is the space that we're in. And so here you could clarify what you're looking for. And so just provide more details. And can you also provide me with output in this fashion? And so that fashion might be, hey, I want it in a numbered bullet point list or a numbered list, or it could be, I want it to be downloaded as a PDF. Like ChatGPT will create PDFs, it'll create text files, it'll create CSVs, it'll create Excel spreadsheets, and it'll create images, and it'll create video files, and it'll create that for you and then download those files. And so, I just gave you a whole lot of information there about this phrase called prompt engineering, which is kind of a highfalutin sounding phrase. And I think it's like overly complicated phrase, but what prompt engineering, you'll hear people use that phrase. What prompt engineering is just like, how do we talk? Right. So really a big paradigm shift. That's the third takeaway. There's a new way of talking with the machines, right? Versus search engines versus talking with AI. Search engines, we had to conform to the machine. AI, the machine conforms to us. Search engines is a short query. AI, it's a longer paragraph prompt. And really, the way that's best to think about how you use AI chatbots is you want to use it in a conversational way. And so the analogy is that I want to give you some good news. Who's ready for some good news? Friday afternoon, 2:39. You want ready for some good news? Okay, cool. Here comes the good news. The good news is you have a new friend. You have a new friend. And this friend is the smartest entity on the planet. They're smarter than any other entity that's ever existed on the planet in some very significant ways. Of course, nobody has totality of intelligence smarter than everyone ever. And certainly Einstein had things going on in his head, and we each have things going on in our heads that aren't going on in the AI engine. But this AI engine very arguably could be the smartest entity, one of the most intelligent, I will say one of the most intelligent entities you've ever engaged with. It's your new friend. It's available 24/7, 365. And you could talk to it about anything. And truly, you just need to talk to it and just have a conversation with it. And so the machine is now conforming to us. And I just want to make sure that that's really well conveyed. Man, just have that long, rambling paragraph, two paragraph conversation, giving it lots of context, specifying your goal, clarifying what you want and what you want it to look like, telling it what kind of output you want. I want the recipe and I want the directions. I want bullet points. I want it to be 800 words long. I want it to be 50% of that, I want it to be paragraphs with no more than 3 sentences in each paragraph, like specifying the output, like truly you can just talk with this thing in a conversational way like you'd talk to a really, really, really smart friend. How many people that's helpful for you hearing all that, those three main takeaways?
Yes.
Okay, good. So now just to step back to the first main takeaway, and that first main takeaway I mostly remember it. I'm tempted to kind of quiz the classroom to jar my memory, but that first main takeaway is integrating AI into your workflow, into your systems, and consciously thinking about how you could do that. So let me illustrate that with an example. So that example that I already started was creating like a weekly email message that I send to my students. And when I create that weekly email message, so I don't know what classes are like in other departments, other divisions, other schools of thought, sociology, social sciences, psychology, history, music, literature, English, poetry, art, music. Did I already say that? Business, physical education. But, because it's been a couple of decades since I was a full-time student, but a lot of it is like PowerPoints kind of come with whatever course materials you're using. And so you could take that PowerPoint and you could upload that PowerPoint right to ChatGPT. And just to give you a visual on this, I'm going to share my screen. And you should all be able to see my screen right now. Do y'all see my screen? Y'all see my screen?
Yes.
Cool. So on my screen, I just want to minimize that and too many like things going on here. All right. So at ChatGPT, I'm just looking to see if I already have it open. I do not. At ChatGPT, you can upload files. So right here, you could attach files, and you can just upload them from your computer, or you could drag and drop them in here. And you could just say, I want you to draft an email message to like give it some context. And so that context would be, I'm a professor at Fresno City College. I teach in the business division in computer information technology. And this is for my CIT 15 computer concepts course, which is an introductory course which introduces students to computers. And attached is the PowerPoint. I want you to draft a welcome message to the students, welcoming them to this week. And in this welcome message, I want you to, give a bullet point list of the main things that they're going to learn this week from the textbook and that course material. And then also, I want you to take a look at the screenshot attached. And so I could go into my assignments. And so in here, I have my assignments, and I could go into, like, I don't know, let's say this was why this comes up. Let's say this was, oh, those are all my assignments. I want to go into my modules. So let's say this was like module 12, okay? So I could go and I could take a screenshot of module 12. And if you're like, I don't know how to take a screenshot, how do I take a screenshot on Windows, right? And so you could ask ChatGPT how to do that. And you could also say, how do I take a screenshot on a Mac? And it'll tell you how to take a screenshot on a Mac and go. There we go. And so I could come in here, and then I could also grab a screenshot of this. So I do this and then grab a screenshot of that. And so now I have that screenshot, and I could go back to ChatGPT and I could go get that screenshot. So in this hypothetical example, we're also already, we've uploaded the PowerPoint presentation for this week, but I could grab that screenshot. And how many people actually want to see this for real? I mean, anybody want to see it for real? See what it generates? Say aye. One person raised their hand. So, yep. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, some people in the chat said yes as well.
All right, cool. So, hi, ChatGPT. My name's Todd McLeod. I'm a professor at Fresno City College. So I'm going to just right here, I'm going to use the voice feature because I could talk faster than I could type. And you could even ask at what speed, this is kind of interesting, speed do people type on average if they're a good, if they're good at typing? And at what speed do people talk? And at what speed do people comprehend spoken language? I don't know. And so typing is 40 to 60 words per minute, maybe 70 to 100 words. Speaking is 120 to 160 words, 100 to 150, right? And then comprehension is 200 to 300, maybe 400. And so here's that little summary. So that's kind of cool because I'm going to triple the speed at which I could get information into ChatGPT by just talking to it. So now I'm going to click this icon down here, use voice mode. And so I'm going to click this. I'm just going to talk to it like it's a human, like I'm a manager. This is my employee. I'm going to have a discussion with an employee or a really intelligent friend. And I use that employee analogy because you could really kind of think of ChatGPT as some entity that will do things for you. And it might sound strange to you that I'm talking about this in a relational way like that. It's a little bit strange to me too. I agree. So, but that's kind of like one of the things. I think it's a great analogy, and it's also the anthropomorphism where we start to treat things which aren't human as if they're a bit human. The anthropomorphism is real, and I have experienced it, and it's a bit of a trip. So, and I think it's going to be a common theme. At a very subtle level, I've experienced it like, oh, I don't want to ask it to regenerate that. It did such a good job the first time, and it's so much work to write a 10-page paper again or whatever, you know? So that's some of the ways it's manifested for me. But anyhow, here we go. Here's this example. In a moment, I'm going to upload some files, period. I want you to use those files to draft a welcome message to my students, welcoming them to week number, hold on one second, week number 12 of this course, period. The course that I'm teaching is CIT 15, Computer Concepts. I'm teaching that at Fresno City College, where I'm a professor. This is an introductory course to computer concepts. Please draft a welcome email message in just a moment here based upon the PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to upload and then also a screenshot of the assignments. I want you to include bullet points, a bullet point list of the main points that they will learn from the material in the textbook, as you can see in the PowerPoint presentation attached. And I also want you to detail for them all of the assignments that they're going to do, which you can see in the screenshot, which is also attached. So does that make sense to you? If so, just let me know yes, and then I'll upload the files and you could draft that message.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. Please go ahead and upload the files, and I'll draft the welcome message for your students based on the materials you provide.
So now I'm going to hit end. And so here's everything I just voice to texted into the computer. And then here's how they responded. And now I'm going to say, here are the attached files. Thank you for drafting a welcome message to my students based upon the criteria previously discussed. Right. And so just again, using this framework of context, goal, clarity, output, right? You don't have to really think about like, where's my context? Where's my goal? Where's my clarity? It kind of happens naturally in conversation. So really having that idea that I'm just going to talk with this machine and the machine's going to conform to me and I'm going to talk to it like it's another human, and a really smart human, maybe the smartest human I've ever interacted with, and a human I could tell what to do. That's really a good way to approach this. And in doing that, by just like being really clear about what you want, clarifying and your goal and giving it a lot of context. This is who I am. This is what I'm doing. This is who I'm doing it for. And then specifying the output, bullet point lists of this, of that. And it's going to be a welcome message. I'll also say, please make the message enthusiastic. Enthusiastic, generate enthusiastic. I want it to generate excitement for the students. And also please encourage the students to persist with their studies. Tell them they're doing a great job and to just keep going. That persistence and grit is the number one factor that correlates with student success. All right, so now I just need to attach those files. So I need to get the PowerPoint presentation, simulation, training, quiz, scholar, movie. I think it's in module 1. And impact of technology, simulation exam, important key concepts. And that might be chapter 1. Files, maybe? Hold on, let me just go get it from my files. Courses, drive, consolidated, school, and it's right here, lectures, and CIT 15, and textbook PowerPoints, and chapter 12 download. So I could open this as open this here. This is good for y'all to see. So when you open something in Google Drive, you could then download it. You could download it as a PPT, PowerPoint, or you could download it as a PDF. I'm going to download it as a PowerPoint.
Can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
Would you like us to wait until the end with any questions that we have, or would you like us to ask them as we go?
Fire away. Go ahead, anytime.
Um, as you're sorting this out and finding the file, does ChatGPT do the same thing for video files?
It doesn't parse video as far as I know. So I've asked it to like, hey, here's a podcast or here's a YouTube video that's an hour long. Summarize this YouTube video for me and give me the key points. And it will summarize that. And I really, encourage also, as we're talking about this, to adopt the spirit of adventure and exploration. And the spirit of adventure and exploration is really like, I don't know, let me see. And something might not work this week and it might work next week. But when I tried that a couple of weeks ago, early December, I think it was giving me just like a summary of the description from the YouTube video, and it didn't parse the YouTube video. Hey, John Wilson, I see you. But anyhow, that's my 2 cents on that. And there are tools out there, and so one of the tools is I can't remember it, but it's like more of a programming tool that you'd have to, but it will go get videos and run them through AI. And so it has a level. The way it does that is it takes all the content in the video and I think it turns it into text, and then it runs the text through the AI. So there are ways to work around that manually or programmatically, but I don't think that's available at OpenAI's ChatGPT. There might be other AI websites that do that. So does that answer your question with that one?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Todd, there's another chat question. Are those summary features for PowerPoints and YouTube available on the free version?
Oh, that's a good point. So the paid version is much better than the free version. And at this point in time, I really recommend that the $20 a month, you'll get your use out of it if you really start to use this technology to create weekly messages to your students, you know, and in other ways, which we'll look at here in this session. It's worth paying for it. The free version will summarize, and it might not be as great. And it will write messages, and it might not be as great. There are still some, you know, errors with ChatGPT. Some people talk about this like, you know, it's a real big downfall. I think there's errors with search engines. I mean, you get a lot of information, but is the information that you've gotten, is it correct? Is it accurate? You know, is it reliable? Does it have errors in it? Yeah, there's a certain percentage, maybe a large percentage, if you're looking at the news, of information that you get which isn't non-biased and reliable, and it's completely accurate, right? But you know, also ChatGPT and AI will ChatGPT and AI will have errors, and they call that it will be confidently wrong. And the place that I really noticed that with the paid version is, and obviously the free version is also going to do it, but worse so. But the paid version still glitches up when I have it do I don't know how to say that, when it does statistics, when I ask it to do statistics, it'll mess up calculating stuff sometimes, and then I catch it in that. Not all the time, but sometimes. So paid version's better than free, and both will make errors. Where's the party tonight? Any back to school parties? I thought about hosting one, but life got a little bit busy. That'd be fun. All right, you ready to see what this does? Who's ready? Let me hear some eyes if you're ready.
Ready?
Ready, ready, ready.
Aye. Good.
Let's go.
Here we go. Let's go, man. Make a good message for me. Here's your draft welcome message based upon the materials provided. Welcome to week 12 of CIT 15, Networking and Security. Dear students, welcome to week 12 of CIT 15, Computer Concepts at Fresno City College. This week, we're diving into network and security in the business world and exploring Microsoft Access. I'm thrilled to have you on this journey, and I wanted to take a moment to say how proud I am of your persistence and grit. It's the key to success, and you're doing a fantastic job. Keep going strong. You've got this. Here's what you'll be learning this week. From our Chapter 12 material, we'll explore the essential foundations of networking and security. Here are the key concepts you'll master, da 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 da. Assignments for this week. Here's what you'll be working on, da 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 da. These assignments are designed to deepen your understanding of networking and security while also giving you hands-on practice with Microsoft Access. Words of encouragement. Remember, persistence is the number one. If you have any questions or need clarification, let's make week 12 great. Warm regards, Tom McLeod, Professor, City College, CIT 15, Computer Concepts, right? Like, man, I love that. It's written so well. It just blows me away. And then it's just like, that's like, 15 minutes, 10 minutes before I end my day. Like class is over, drop the PowerPoint for next week, drop a screenshot of the assignments. And then I could even template, so I could create a file that has a lot of this context right here. And I could just, each time I do a welcome message for this class, I could just drop that in. And then I could even save these welcome messages, right? And it's something that is a file that I have somewhere in my Google Drive that I just grab this on, Friday night, Sunday night, and drop that in and send it out. It takes a couple of minutes, but it really increases that RSI, that regular substantive interaction. And it really doesn't take that much time, because that's one of the factors they look at with RSI is how regularly are you communicating with your students? Are you conveying what's happening during the week and this week? And so that's a really useful tool. Really like that. Okay. Anybody have any thoughts or questions or comments on that? How many people like it?
I like it. Very quickly, I started using it I uploaded my syllabus into ChatGPT and asked it to create a 20 question quiz with 7 true false questions about my syllabus, 7 short answer, and 7, 14, 6 multiple choice.
That's great.
And I kind of tweaked it a little bit. I looked at it. Okay, question 11, I don't like question 11. Rewrite that so that it is a little bit easier. Make question 12 a little bit more difficult. And it was on it in seconds. So I'm seeing how something like the quiz can reaffirm the importance of reading the syllabus, because I think most students don't read the syllabus. Y'all can argue that on your own, but I think most students don't read the syllabus, and it's a way to encourage it, and in a passive way, so to speak, active but passive.
Yep. And then Zach, you're asking a question. Is it safe to assume that all the yada, yada, yada was accurate? I'm assuming you're talking about when I just skimmed over the text and said yada, yada, yada. Is that right, Zach? That is correct. Zach's microphone's maybe not working. Yeah, so through my experience of using ChatGPT to craft welcome messages like the one we just crafted, yeah, it's great. It's all great. And of course, sometimes there's like, oh, I got to take that sentence out or truncate half of a sentence. Like that doesn't make sense. So you have to read it and take ownership of it, co-create and collaborate. It creates a draft, but you're signing your name on it. So you want to make sure that what you're sending out, you actually stand behind it. So you obviously want to read it before you press send, because maybe it said something crazy stupid, which there have been a couple of instances where AIs have said really dumb, bad, inaccurate, inappropriate things. And so before you sign your name on something and send it out, you definitely want to read through it. But my experience was all the yada, yada, yada stuff. It does an amazing job at generating content. And Rebecca's asking, are you submitting your own created PowerPoints or the publisher PowerPoints? Yes to both. So that one that I just submitted was the publisher PowerPoint. Maybe there's an intellectual property concern question in Rebecca's question, or concern in Rebecca's question about intellectual property. I don't know what to say about that. That's
Give credit
huh?
to them. Give credit to the company. By the way, this PowerPoint is from the publisher, and just give credit.
There you go. I like
I
it.
suspect, I don't know,
I
but
like it. Yeah. So anybody have any thoughts on that? Feel free to chime in, because I don't feel like I have a definitive source of expertise on or response for that, a great response for that. Cool. All right, so the next thing, so we've had some good takeaways here. And the first takeaway is to think, how can I integrate AI into my workflow? And John, I loved your example of your syllabus. And that's exactly wonderfully creative. You uploaded a document that's high skill level for today. right, for what people are doing. You uploaded a document, you asked it to create a quiz, you really specified some unique output. You want 7 questions that are short response, 7 that are true false, and 6 that are multiple choice. So that's a really good example, John, of using AI to integrate it into your workflow and streamline your work process. So that's great. So anytime you're creating written communication, you're sending a message to your students, whether it's a welcome to this week message or you're responding to a message, like I'll take screenshots from my phone of emails or of like, you know, um, of questions, and I will upload that screenshot to ChatGPT on my phone and have it generate a response to an email. Or I'll copy the text from an email if I'm on my phone, drop it into ChatGPT and say, please draft a response. And in this response, I want you to include, and then just talk to it, blah, 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 and then hit submit and drafts a nice response, copy that, edit a few things, send it back. So anytime, again, integrating AI into your workflow, anytime, you could think about doing that, start thinking about it, because I find it saves time and it produces better output. Like for me to achieve that level of writing, and I've written a lot in my life. I'm arguably not a horrible writer, but I'm arguably not a great writer either. I've written a tremendous amount, but ChatGPT writes better than me in many ways, right? And in faster. So it's just a big time saver. So that's that's the first takeaway. Think about how you can integrate AI into your workflows. Second takeaway is the idea of how do you have a prompt with AI? And that's that context, goal, clarify, clarity, and output. And then the third takeaway is very closely related to that. And it's like talk like you're talking to a friend and just have a conversation with the machine. And it's a paradigm shift, right? It's really different than a search engine. And so that's new for a lot of people. Okay, who's ready for a break? You want a little bit of a break from information download, and then I'll show you another way that I use AI in the classroom. Who's ready for a break? Give me a thumbs up or an I or an A or yes or whatever.
Let's keep going.
No break? John
keep
saying
going,
no
man.
break.
I'm
No
good.
break.
Let's just keep going.
So I'm gonna take a break. I need a break. So so here you could say I'm gonna like, I don't know why it shows this thing here. I'm gonna say AI music creation, right? So AI music creation, artist IO, Mareka, music AI, iTubo AI, Sound Draw, and not Digital Ocean, Udio. Here's Udio and Suno. So there's these different services that create music. And how many people, is there anybody, let me just see responses, anybody who's seen music or heard music created by AI? Give me a yes in the chat if you've heard music created by AI. Alan, I think you already heard it because you're in my earlier session. I have not. Yes, yes. 3 people. So 3 people out of 36. Oh, yeah. And then 1 person in the earlier one. Okay, so here's a song that was created with AI. And I created this about Fresno City College. And then then I edited it. With Adobe Premiere and I put it to stock footage. Are you ready? It's 2 minutes and 14 seconds long. And when this is done, I'll play you one other song. So here we go. Fresno City College, where dreams take flight. Can you hear that okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Under stars in the valley night, with a heart that's set to fight, build your best life, reach so high. It's your time, so don't you fear. Fresno pride is clear. Build your life, hold it tight. From classrooms to the field, you'll find your way. Every step a brighter day.
With friends you meet along the way. In this place you'll never sway. It's your time, so don't you fear. Fresno pride is clear. Build your life, hold it tight. Through the struggle, through the strife, Fresno mold a better life. Here's your chance, make it right. Fresno City College, light so bright. It's your time, so don't you fear. Fresno pride is clear. Build your life, hold it tight.
Dude. I love that song. How many people enjoyed that?
Fresno City College,
Hold on.
where dreams take flight.
Whoop, there we go.
I don't know.
Oh, give me your thoughts.
Yeah, no.
Why?
I'm a singer, so I'm a little bit more crucial, I guess, more critical.
Yeah, for sure.
And why no? Yeah. It's like a person speaking words, kind of
I
like
gotcha.
to me.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's maybe, you know, the earlier wonkier days, kind of like some of the images still look a little bit wonky. If you have a really good eye, you're hearing that wonkiness in the song.
Then again, I'd probably be a good judge on the voice, so
Just wait, LOL, somebody said. Sounds auto-tuned. Anyhow, I think it's kind of extraordinary, and I think that'd be an amazing. I don't know. I'm really interested to see how that's going to change the music industry, and
yeah.
an incredible brainstorming tool for musicians just to produce a whole bunch of stuff in their with their sound and see what they like and what they don't like, you know, for generating ideas, just like we could generate ideas for topics we're going to teach or
Right.
generate ideas for whatever. Now you can generate 100 songs and see which ones you like and which rhythms and tunes, tones. Anyhow, kind of an interesting deal. You hear the voice, but no instrument. Somebody else loved it. Somebody else said, needs more soul. All right. Well, cool. Next,
Were the visuals automatically generated as well?
no, I put those are stock. That's stock footage.
Oh, that was okay.
Yeah. So that's stock footage from Envato Elements, which is like a place where you could get stock footage. So here in ChatGPT, there's Sora. For whatever reason, this was not showing up earlier. Now it is. And so in Sora, you could come into Sora and you could sign up for Sora. And if you're paying the $20 a month, you get 50 videos and 720. But if you upgrade to $200 a month, you could do HD, high definition, 1080p, 20-second duration, and 5 concurrent generations. That's kind of interesting. And these videos are only 5-second generation. To see what Sora can create, if you haven't seen that, Sora, ChatGPT, Sora, OpenAI. And so here's Sora, OpenAI, if you haven't seen this. And these are the different types of videos that you're able to create. So, you know, it's starting to create some interesting videos, but we're really moving into a new interesting world where you don't know what's real anymore. So that's maybe a really also big takeaway of this new era. You just don't know what's real. So that's Sora. It's interesting to know about.
look, I'm going to play a little devil's advocate for just a moment here because I'm familiar with AI, but there's certain things that I'm not deeply familiar with. Maybe you can answer a couple of those. One, where does ChatGPT, will say specifically, gather its data versus say, where does Gemini gather its data? So that's the first question. Do you know?
I don't know, and
Okay.
I'm not sure anybody does, but I would say all publicly available information, from what I do understand of it, they train their models on everything they could get their hands on,
Good.
including information that you upload to the model. And
Right.
so you could also, in various models, you could go in and you could change that. So in ChatGPT, you could come up here and you could go to settings, and somewhere in settings here, you could say, hey, data controls. You could say, I improve model for everyone, turn this off. And now it's not going to train on what you're doing. But you can
Right.
start to control some of that. Oh, you didn't see that. Hold on.
Okay.
I'll show
Well,
you.
on that follow-up logic, because again, in this age of misinformation, disinformation gathering from the web, we all have to proofread, we all have to verify, we all have to do secondary, choices. In other words, if we're using AI to generate, say, these responses to the prompt, the student still needs to put some critical thinking and make sure it really does represent themselves, right, in that element. Now, one thing that so I have some anxieties, and I'm a computer person or whatever, because I'm trying to figure out how to best introduce it. But in the meantime, I'm not introducing it because I'm a little gun shy, whatever. But a company like Pearson Education, they've created an AI that dips only into their series of books that they have then put on the market. So they don't use the web. They use their stable of books, everything from technology to music to all those different science to English classes, whatever, because they have validated that with authors as opposed to something that might be gathered from the web because somebody posted it in some site somewhere that may not have been validated. So that's kind of where I'm getting into the where is it coming from, okay, kind of thing. And again, I think you're right. You've been doing it for a while too, and we're not really finding exactly the answer other than we get what you pay for. We kind of have to watch it. And then it's going to be our job as teachers, if I get it right, to make sure that we're incorporating a certain amount of, I don't know how to really say it, but a certain amount of credibility into using the tools. Does that make sense a bit? Am I getting that right?
Yeah, I think it's, just to repeat the question is, you have some concern about integrating this tool into your classroom. Is that a correct summary? And the different ways it could be done, whether it's through the publisher or through ChatGPT?
I guess when it comes to ChatGPT or Gemini or all these ones that are using, I think, the broader web, yes, that's why I have my anxiety. But through a publisher, I might be less angst because I know they have had to validate that process of the content, at least coming from authors. Todd, you're an author, so that means then it's tapping your expertise in the system rather than just going out to the web and finding anybody's opinion about the topics and then saying, yeah, that kind of adds to the flavor of the pie.
Yeah, I think that's part of the territory to explore. Like the approach I have is just like with my students to be show them the pluses and minuses of all the different tools, and but that's the territory each of us has to explore and start to find where we stand with it. And so that's a subjective thing, and each of us individually have to have that philosophical conversation with ourselves and figure out with ourselves what is, how do we want to integrate it into our classes, what are we comfortable with and not comfortable with. For me, I know in reflecting upon that for my classes, like I thought about the importance of one, giving my students the ability to evaluate sources of information and evaluate different tools, and is something valid or not valid. I know this is stuff you already know, Mark, but I'm just reiterating it for everybody. And then also two is like the Pareto principle, like there's pluses and minuses to everything and there's trade-offs. And so I just want the students to be able to be fluent. That's part of what I teach and what we teach in CIT, but fluent with the current technology, because it is something that's being used in industry. And so we just have to make our students skilled and fluent with that. I don't know if that helps, man, but there's not a clear answer to it.
No. Look, I think you hit it right. I don't think there's a clear answer for everything, but I put together in my brain your first video of, Fresno City College and the Pride and whatever, and thinking like, wait a second now. I do Zoom recordings. I place my recording. Maybe I don't do it on Zoom, but maybe I do it in YouTube. It's in YouTube. Now, is the AI going to then grab my voice and then incorporate it into the conversation without my knowledge? I mean, there's some serious issues when it comes to,
For sure.
Some rights or whatever that are involved
For
or
sure.
whatever. But I just didn't know if those are things from your experience, if you're starting to hear, because you're further along the way. You, Rio, I mean, gosh, you guys are way ahead of me in terms of seeing where the landscape is. I can't even see. I'm at the shore of the beach and I haven't put my foot in the water really.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and it's not fair for me to then influence because, Mark, you're not even waded in yet.
Yeah, there are some really interesting intellectual property considerations about AI. And this is as good of a time as any to talk about why it's called generative AI. And so here,
Thank you, Mark, by the way.
yeah, for sure. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the dialogue. All right, so we're going to take a look at additional ways to use ChatGPT in your courses, and then we'll also review or look at a couple of other AI tools. And so one of the ways I use AI in my class, and I really liked, for those of you who were in B's session earlier, I liked what B said about being transparent and modeling for students how you're using AI. And so here's like a discussion prompt, and I teach my students through the discussions how to use AI in the discussions. And so I tell them to go to ChatGPT, and this is like, you're going to draft a message at ChatGPT introducing yourself to the class. So I give them an example prompt, and here's the example prompt, and then here's the output of that example prompt, and then all the other details of the assignment here, how it's going to be graded, and context and learning outcomes, and if they need help, what to do. And so, basically they're just going to put in information about themselves, give it context. I'm in this class, please draft a message introducing me to the class and include this information about me. And then ChatGPT produces that output. And then I have them upload that as the response for the discussion. So really modeling for them how to use ChatGPT, teaching them how to use one of the new tools that is out there. And being transparent about it, because I think it's important to teach our students how to use these tools. So setting up assignments where, the intent of the assignment is for them to use it. And just to illustrate, again, that brainstorming, of all the different ways you might start to integrate something like this in your class, and you can be as creative as possible. But one of the ideas that's come to me that I haven't done is I could grab that PowerPoint presentation. So that's right here. And I could say, here, actually, I'm going to go back into chat mode here. And so I did this in the previous session, but I'll show you what it is, and then we'll talk about how you can integrate it into your class. So I'm going to hit this chat. Hey, welcome back. I want to do a simulation here for you. This simulation is for some colleagues. I'm showing them one of the things that you could do with ChatGPT. In this simulation, I want you to quiz me based upon the material in the PowerPoint presentation that I uploaded. And I want to have a back and forth dialogue with you. So I want you to ask me quiz questions based upon the material in that PowerPoint presentation, and then I'll answer. And then you tell me if I got it wrong or right, and then ask me another quiz question. And we'll just keep going like that until I say stop. Does this make sense?
Yes, that makes perfect sense. I'll quiz you based on the material in the PowerPoint, and we'll have a back and forth dialogue. Let me know when you're ready, and I'll start with the first question.
Okay, let's begin.
Great. Here's your first question. Question 1. What is one major advantage of businesses installing a network?
Well, networks allow people to share information, and it also allows people to share physical resources such as printers. So that would be my answer. And those are two benefits, but the one main benefit would be sharing. Is that the correct answer?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. Networks enable sharing of information, peripherals like printers, resources, and data, which enhances efficiency and communication within a business. Great job. Here's your next question. Question 2. What is the main difference between a client server network and a peer to peer network?
Client server usually uses a star topology, and you have one machine which is dedicated as being the server, and then you have a bunch of clients connected to that server. And with peer to peer, you have a bunch of machines connected to other machines, and sometimes those machines will make requests of other machines as if they're a client, and then those other machines will respond as if they're a server. And then those roles might reverse, where a machine that just recently responded in the role of being kind of a server will now make a request of another machine, which previously had been asking questions like a client. So it's really a network. Peer-to-peer is really a network where machines are asking each other for resources, information, and responding to each other. Whereas client server, those roles are defined and machines are either clients or servers. How is that for a response? Are you still there? So I'm not sure what happened there. Yes, that's absolutely correct. Networks enable sharing information. Well, that's the one we already did. So I'm not sure what happened with the previous one. Is everybody still here? Is there anybody still here? Yeah, people are still here. Okay, good. But you could see how that could be a really interesting assignment for your students. So you could say, hey, I want you to take this PDF or this PowerPoint presentation. I want you to upload it to ChatGPT, and I want you to have a conversation with ChatGPT where it's quizzing you on the material in the course. I want it to ask you at least 20 questions, and then I want you to copy that dialogue and put it into a document, right? Because currently, if you do a voice chat with ChatGPT, and I'll just show you that, share. So if you do a voice chat with ChatGPT and you click share, they'll say you can't share this because it's a conversation with audio. So you can't share it, but they could copy this. You could copy all this. I'm just highlighting it and copying it. And then they could copy all of that and put it into another document and share the link to that document with you. So that could be an assignment that you have your students do, which, I think would be amazing. Like every student is getting personalized tutoring where the tutor is drilling them Q&A on the material for that week. And then they have to show you the conversation where they did that. And you're like, okay, cool. Looks like you did that conversation. I give you full credit. So that's great. What do you all think of that? Somebody tell me something.
Well, as as a lit guy, English and literature guy, there's a bit of a struggle because I have a desire for students to think independently and develop their own thoughts and develop their own ideas and creativity. And at the same time, discourage students using ChatGPT to write their essays. So I believe in ChatGPT. I believe it as a tool, and I believe that it can enhance equity. But I want to have a job 20 years from now. And it's not just the job thing, it's just the idea of finding a balance of here's an example of a student that asked me about ChatGPT. Learning APA style was difficult for my students, and they found their sources, they had to type it up, but there were just glitches and mistakes. And one student asked me, can I use ChatGPT to take the sources that I resourced and have asked ChatGPT to list my APA sources correctly. And I was like, that's brilliant, because they would need to see, they need to confirm it based on the lecture information that I provided for them and the tools that I'd given them. But that's probably the extent that I want them to use it. That's just me talking out loud.
No, I really like this dialogue. I think it's an important dialogue. And I encourage anybody else here that wants to jump in. We'll talk about this for a few minutes because I think, John, your situation, you're giving voice to, a common concern that a lot of people have and in maybe slightly different ways because they're in different fields and different subjects. But anyhow, is there anybody else who has any thoughts about what John shared and would like to contribute? Please chime in if so.
So I'd like to share, it's the time when I was a student, F&P student. So one of my coworker told me there is a ChatGPT. I never used it. So he told me, like, you just put it, it will pop up all the discussion. But the thing is, I never used it because I want to make my words until I'm not satisfied if something is written by the computer. But it's going to be concerned like other people who are in my class. So they're I'm thinking they are using it. But the thing is, like, who is hardworking, reading the books and doing that stuff? It's going to be quite challenging for teachers. Like, it's not that much students are focusing on the subjects.
Yeah. Yeah, good points. Other thoughts? I think this is such a good conversation. I'd just like to pursue it a little bit more, but anybody else have any thoughts on that?
I can add a bit more, but I don't mind waiting for someone else to chime in first.
Okay, 5, 4. All right, Steve, let's go. I see a hand. Steve, yeah, Steve, go ahead. You're on mute. We can't hear you.
This is the interpreter. I'm gonna have to be able to see him first and then I'll interpret his message. Okay, 1 minute.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, that's good. So I had an experience, I had a request from a group to come up with a dance annotation in the shape of a person that we know. So I sent a picture of the person, head to toe, in a standing posture, and I asked the AI, the chat GPT, to create a dance icon or a person dancing out of that image. It sent it back to me and it looked pretty good. I asked for the background to show a rainbow and different colors. And it turned out pretty well, but I haven't tried to put it to music, to a beat. I haven't gone that far yet. But I'm pretty impressed that AI could do something like that.
Nice. I like it. It is very impressive. It's very extraordinary. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So I think what that's kind of illustrating the conversation here is that in some ways, this new era of generative AI where machines are creating content, it's asking us really, or forcing us to begin to create in a new way because we're having to respond to all the ways the machines can create, whether they're creating a new logo or a figure of somebody dancing with some music or creating a written paper or, like whatever it is, we have to now create in response to that. and come up with ways to start integrating that into our classrooms and our lives. So, John, in response to your situation, and then also just as a general way that I think about this new tool. So, part of what I teach and what I think about a lot is humans and tools, just from a very humanistic, social kind of perspective. Like, humans have been creating tools for a long time, and this is a new tool. And so the analogy for me is like, if I was a math teacher, I want you to know how to do math with a pencil and a piece of paper, right? Like, I'm going to teach you how to do that, and I also want to know how to do math with a calculator, right? And so once you've mastered the pencil and the piece of paper, right, then okay, save some time, use the calculator. But you also need to know how to fall back to that pencil and that piece of paper. And so you could just extrapolate that analogy to whatever your field is. So if you're in literature, English, writing, like there's times where I'm going to be teaching you to work with that pencil and that piece of paper. And then there's also times where I'm going to teach you how to leverage this new tool to be more efficient, or to be able to do things that you can't do with a pencil and a piece of paper, to achieve outputs and results which are beyond what you can normally achieve with a pencil and piece of paper. I want to teach you both of those. So we each have to find our way, like how do we integrate giving them the fundamentals and then also giving them these powerful tools to make them more efficient and effective, maybe in slightly different ways. So that's kind of the way I think about it. But everybody has to figure out, make their peace with that in their own field. I wish you luck. Uploading files is a big takeaway. You could upload files. You could have ChatGPT do a first pass analysis on student writing, and the limit there is really just like the prompts that you could put in. And so you could create prompt templates, and a prompt template is like basically so it's a template for something where you're asking this prompt a lot. So if you have papers that you have to grade, you could create a general prompt that you're going to upload with each student paper, and it could have a matrix in it, and you could say, I want you to evaluate the thesis statement. I want you to provide an example of a better thesis statement. I want you to evaluate the first paragraph. I want you to provide an example of a better first paragraph. It does a pretty amazing job with all of that. I want you to look for grammar and spelling errors and point them out and explain why they're incorrect. Or you could give that as an assignment to your students, where your students have to run their paper through ChatGPT with all of those questions before they submit it to you. ChatGPT will also recognize handwriting. So in my statistics course, I kid you not, I uploaded this. Can you see that? I got to see my screen, see if.
Oh.
Which is just like, okay, there we go. Okay, it's just like handwriting statistics, right? And, and I asked it questions about this, and it was able to give accurate answers about my handwritten notes and graphs and statistics. So that's pretty amazing. And then conversation. Somebody already pointed this out, but this is like also an amazing thing to do right here. Use voice mode. Allow while visiting the site. Hi, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Todd. I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. How about you?
I'm great, thanks. I'm doing a presentation right now, so any of your responses, please keep them professional, and also consider any privacy considerations. Don't share anything about me which wouldn't be appropriate to share in a professional context. I'm presenting this to my colleagues at the college. But that said, what can you tell me about me? Share about me. What do you know about Todd McLeod?
Absolutely, Todd. Professionally, you're a tenured professor at Fresno City College, teaching in fields like business, information systems, computer information technology, computer science, and decision sciences. You're also a Udemy instructor partner with courses that have taught over 500,000 students. On a personal note, you have a wife named Jessica, a son named Oliver Hawk, and a daughter named Lillian Sky. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like to highlight.
what would you like to share with my colleagues? Because I'm presenting to them right now. Like, what would you like to share with them about, what I'm teaching them about is, fundamentals and essentials and best practices for using AI. And if you have like 4 main points that you could share just in a very succinct bullet point fashion, what are the main things for them to know?
Sure thing, Todd. Here are 4 key points about AI fundamentals and best practices. 1, understand AI basics. Grasp foundational concepts like machine learning, neural networks, and data training. This ensures a strong foundation for deeper learning and application. 2, ethical considerations. Emphasize the importance of ethics in AI, including bias mitigation, transparency, and privacy. This helps in building trust and accountability. 3, data quality. Highlight the significance of high-quality, diverse data sets. Quality data leads to more accurate and reliable AI models. 4, continuous learning. Encourage ongoing education and adaptation as AI evolves. Staying updated with the latest advancements ensures relevance and effectiveness. These points should give a solid overview of the essentials and best practices in AI.
That's great. So we saw this briefly, but I'll just reiterate it. Go to your account up here and go to settings, and you could go to data controls. You could control whether or not your data is going to be trained. It's going to be trained on your data. But you could also go into Explore GPTs in ChatGPT. And in Explore GPTs, you could create GPTs. And so here's some GPTs that I created. And so this Yosemite tour guide is like, a good example. But at the Yosemite tour guide GPT, let me just go back to that and click at it. A GPT is like I forget what does regarding general processor transformer, I think regarding ChatGPT, what does the GPT stand for? Just to clarify that, it's generalized processor generative pre-trained transformer. There it is. And so it's just like this is like a crazy phrase. So don't feel like you have to know that, or it like I hear that and I'm like, man, that's a crazy phrase. And I've been in computers for my entire career, but this, it explains it right here. So you could pause the video on the recording of this and take a look at that, or you could just go to ChatGPT and ask about it if you're interested in knowing what GPT stands for. But here you could go and create your own GPT. And when you do that, you'll have an option. I'll show you just briefly how to do that, because I think this might be helpful for some people who want a little bit more of a sandboxed environment. And a sandbox is like, instead of playing at the entire beach, you could create like a sandbox in your backyard where you have boards and then you fill it with sand. And then, the kids only get to play in that sandbox. They don't get to play at the whole beach. They only get to play in that sandbox. So that's what the phrase sandbox means in the computer world. That's an analogy for it. But here you could upload, so create, configure. You could create a GPT and you could say, hey, here's the name of the GPT. You could say, hey, this is for my computer concepts course. I could say, this is where you can come to ask questions of all of the course material in our course. And then here are the instructions that you could give to ChatGPT for what students can do here and what this GPT is going to be all about. And then you could upload files. So here's upload files. Right. And you could also say, hey, I'm going to allow web search or not allow it. And Canvas is not the Canvas that we use for our classes. It's a Canvas where they could create documents and edit them in real time with GPT, ChatGPT. So, they could start to like write a paper and edit parts of it. And it's more of it's a collaborative kind of word processing environment in ChatGPT. You can allow them to generate images or not if they, I think, have the account that allows them to do that. You could do, this is more complicated, so you don't worry about that. But then you just upload all the documents, all the PowerPoints. Like if you have a PDF of the textbook, you could upload all the documents right here. And then you either save or update your GPT. And then when you've created that, you just share this with people. So I could come back here. And that's delete. So maybe I go in here to find the share, or maybe I just give them this URL up here, but you could share this with, there's some place where you could share it. And you could share this with your students, and then they're just asking questions of those documents in that sandboxed environment. So that's something that I think is useful to know. And then there's HeyGen. HeyGen is also mind-blowing. Did you all know that I'm fluent in Spanish?
Así que ahora vamos a ver cómo acceder a nuestros archivos del curso. Y mientras avanzas en el curso, tienes esta sección de contenido del curso aquí a la de.
And I'm also fluent in Japanese.
では、なぜこのコースが重要なのかについて話しましょう。と言い換えれば、AI について学ぶことがなぜ重要であり、
And I'm also fluent in Hindi.
तो अब हम देखेंगे कि अपने पाठ्यक्रम फाइलों तक कैसे पहुंचे और जैसे जैसे आप पाठ्यक्रम के माध्यम से आगे बढ़ते हैं आपके पास यहाँ दाईं ओर ये पाठ्यक्रम सामग्री अनुभाग है
And I'm also fluent in any other language that I want to upload my videos to HeyGen. And then it'll just translate. If I log in here, it'll translate any video I've done into any other language in the world. So that's HeyGen, and for accessibility, like that's pretty extraordinary.
Todd, Rebecca Nelson had a question.
Hi,
or
Rebecca.
had her hand up.
Thanks, Karen. I put it down. No, I was just going to add to the conversation about, when you generated your letter to the students, or even if they're, turning in an assignment and you're asking them to use AI, then somewhere in that document that they're also giving credit to this document was completed or this assignment was completed using chat or the specific AI tool that they used. I've seen it come through in some of our even co-workers emails. Hey, this document was created with this source. So maybe that's something that as instructors, if we're teaching the students how to do it, we also model that we're using it as a source, and then they use it as a source too. Just a thought.
No, it's a good point.
Well, doesn't that get a little complicated? Because I think, obviously it's important to give credit where it's due, but I think some of the things that like I've used for my English classes are in terms of like stylistic choices, word choice, or how to get rid of like repetitiveness. And so in that sense, if I had students that were using ChatGPT to help them revise, yes, it is kind of co-created, but at the same time, I wouldn't have them like cite a thesaurus if they use that instead. If that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Anybody else want to chime in? So one of the ways I've seen AI being used in the classroom is through an iterative process. And the iterative process is like, it's the assignment to use AI, but the AI does some of the creation, some of the work, and the student has to do some of the creation and some of the work. So again, everybody has to figure this out, but you might have as the first step in an assignment, submit to me what your prompt's going to be to the chat. And then create a prompt for the chat, and then get the response, which is maybe a 800-word paper, and then submit that, right? And then I want you to now edit that paper and you make it your own voice, and then submit that. And now I want you to take the edited paper, go to your original prompt, and then ask ChatGPT to compare these two and show me the changes between the original version that ChatGPT created, and then also the paper that you modified, that you submitted with your modifications. Have ChatGPT just explicitly compare those two papers, show me the differences in them so I could see how you added to it, and submit that, right? So that's like a 3-stage thing. But that'd be another way that, again, it's bringing the creativity out of all of us. Like, how can we creatively start to integrate this stuff so students know how to use this tool, but also know how to use it in a way which is appropriate for various situations. So starting to teach all of that to our students, modeling for them how to use this new tool, modeling transparency for them. So that's all good. We've got like 14 minutes left. So there's another thing I want to share with everybody. I'm ready to move into that unless anybody else has anything pressing they want to share about what we've been doing so far. If you feel like you need to contribute and have your voice heard, the conversation, everybody's input is valuable. So if you've got something you want to share about everything so far, jump in now.
Quick question.
Go ahead.
Part of the title is enhancing equity. Would you just be willing to say a few words on how equity is enhanced, both from a student point of view as well as an instructor's point of view?
Yeah, well, from the instructor enhances equity for the student, and we have a diverse student population with all kinds of different people from different backgrounds with different learning styles and different accessibility to both resources and the campus and how they consume info. And so the more material that we could get to them and the more ways that we can enable them to learn, the more it's going to enhance access and create a more equitable learning environment where people who, like, I learn really well by listening. Like, that's how I learn. I love listening to like audiobooks and Audible and podcasts, and that my brain just works really well that way. Reading a book is very slow and laborious for me. So when I went through school and got my degrees, it was hard. I had to read all these books, and that was a really hard way for me to learn. And I would even read aloud to myself to help me learn more effectively. So the next tool that I'm going to show you is something that could, create a, without much time investment from us, can create a way which people who are really auditory learners, right? It increases equity because it makes it easier for those people to learn. So it's creating a more equal learning environment. That's my 2 cents. If anybody else has anything they want to chime in on this, feel free, jump in. I don't have all the answers.
I may play. I don't think I mean to do this semester, but I may play. I'm requiring students to read the U.S. Constitution as part of a preparation for speaking about human rights and how different people have or lose access as through the modem of protest songs, and many students have indicated that reading the Constitution was hard and laborious, but they after reading it they saw the value of it, and so I was playing with the idea of maybe putting the U.S. Constitution into ChatGPT and asking ChatGPT to create questions about each one of the articles and make it interactive as a game, creating a game so they can learn about it and then contribute more to the discussion. And I guess that's one way that equity could be between student and student, so they can learn from each other and make something that can be a little bit challenging a little bit easier. But I'm not sure right now.
That's great. I love it. I think your students are lucky, John. It sounds like a really interesting class. And I love the creativity that you're bringing to it. So this next tool, that's a perfect segue because this next tool could also be really helpful with the Constitution and or anything else. And this tool is Notebook LM by Google. And so Notebook LM is a large language model, and it really is good for uploading documents and asking questions of the documents. You could also do that with ChatGPT, but it's a slightly different flavor. Mostly I just use ChatGPT, and we have 9 minutes, and I'll show you some of my other favorite tools here in a minute, and I'll just go through them. But I find Notebook LM notable because of something that you can do with it, which you can't do anywhere else. And so here I uploaded chapter 9 PowerPoint presentation. You can see the PowerPoint presentation right here. So you could create a new thing by just create a new notebook right here. When you create it, you could upload files. And then you could also ask it to create a conversation, which is a podcast. So it creates a conversation podcast based upon what you've uploaded. And I don't know why it takes a moment to load this. I guess it's downloading the whole thing. It's not stored locally, but here it is. It's already created. When you create it, you can see this is a 30-minute podcast based upon this textbook PowerPoint presentation, which I uploaded. So let's just listen to this for a second.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are going to be diving into how to protect your digital life.
It's a jungle out there.
Oh yeah.
It really is.
So all those devices and all that data you've got floating around the cloud.
Yeah.
We're basing this deep dive on a college textbook chapter all about online security. And trust me, there's some seriously important stuff in here that I did not know about.
Yeah. It's fascinating how much we rely on technology these days, but most people don't realize just how vulnerable their data is.
Right.
Did you know that identity theft is the most financially damaging cybercrime out there?
Is it really?
It is.
Wow.
And it's not just about losing money either.
Right.
It's about someone stealing your entire identity,
Oh gosh.
opening accounts in your name, even getting medical treatment as you do.
Wow, that's scary stuff.
It is.
So let's break down some of the biggest threats out there.
Okay.
So how many people, I don't know, let me just get a couple of reactions on that. Like, what do you think of that? Any ideas on how you'd use it? Do you like it, not like it? Wow. Yeah, totally wow. For me, it's like, holy cow, that's amazing. Right? Like, again, just think about the enhanced resources. So I'm sending a weekly message to each of my classes now. That's taking me 10 minutes. And once that's created, it's just a copy and paste at the beginning of every week for each of my classes. And for each class, they could have a podcast of all the material covered in that class. And that takes me, the first time I create it, 10 minutes. But then it becomes a resource that's always linked in that module. Yeah, I can use this instead of lecturing. I think in some ways that I do a good job lecturing. I'm sure you do also, Karen, but this does a different job with the same material in a different way, which makes it accessible in some ways, which, the way it's different than I'm presenting it, also great. But yeah, so you got that podcast audio thing now. And so that's I think pretty amazing. So good to know about Notebook LM. Well, let me just share my a couple of, see if there's any resources here that I could give you that maybe will be useful. So I'm just going to look at, I have a folder here, but ChatGPT is my favorite large language model thing. And then I also like Notebook LM, and there's Notebook LM. For writing assistants, Grammarly, Quillbot, or Hemingway. And so you could, just make a note of any of these if you see any. Image generators are pretty amazing. DALL-E, and you could create images right at ChatGPT. So for resources, when I need images for resources, can you please create a landscape image for this week's material in my computer concept course, right? And so I think this material is about networking. And so maybe I want an image for that, or I want a thumbnail image for my entire course, in Canvas, so I could have ChatGPT. And this is using another OpenAI service called DALL-E, but with the paid version, it's right there. So like, here's a image it created, which is really great for networking and security. And so I could, if I have a YouTube lecture, I could associate this image with it. And now I have really nice thumbnails for my, YouTube videos or whatever. So image generators, Midjourney is also really amazing if you haven't checked that out. If you're doing research, here's some AI for getting research: Elicit, Research Rabbit, and SCITE. So you can check those out: Elicit, Research Rabbit, and SCITE. And if these go too fast, this is being recorded so you can watch the recording. You could have it create PowerPoint presentations, beautiful AI, and Visme. These are just mediocre, but interesting. You could have it create music. Sora will create little video clips. You can't trust anything you see anymore, images or video. You don't know if it's real or not real. I'm just looking here, sales, other, staying current. There's a lot of information for staying current on AI. And then also Fresno City College. Oh, this is really good to know. So Fresno City College had a pretty good training on AI, and I'll include this link here. I haven't been through this training right here. This isn't the one, but this was shared in B's class. So I'll also share it. And then there was another one that you could email me and I'll find the link. And so the other one that I went through with the college was like from the state senate. And there's my email, and I'll try to find that link and give it to you. All right, we got 3 minutes. Any final thoughts? Anybody have any final questions? Anything? Anybody have anything they want to share?
This is Gerard.
What's up?
Hey, what's going on? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. This raised a bunch of questions. I think this is really good information. I think it also could be useful in terms of like looking at updating our web pages and making it equity friendly and just different ways to work with students who provide information. But I do have a general, broad question. Who owns the outputs? So you had that image generated. Now, once you get it from ChatGPT, is it yours or the person who gets it, or are you free to use it? Like, say that image goes with like some public work you want to publish for profit. Like, could you use that, or how does that work? That's part one of my question.
That's a great question. And the general practice in the AI industry right now is that when you are co-creating and collaborating with the machine, but when you create something, you own it.
Okay.
You own it. And the people who created it retain the rights to use that for training, but you own that intellectual property so that you could go out and you could sell it. And but with any service that you use, they're all going to have their terms of service. And so you could take their terms of service and, you know, all of their privacy policy, you could dump that all into Notebook LM and ChatGPT. And you could say, you know, based upon this terms of service and privacy policy, if I create content at this website, this service, like, do I own that content? Where does it say that in the terms of service? Can you point that out to me? And so I did that with ChatGPT. I did that with Notebook LM. And in both those cases, the user who creates stuff is the person who owns it. It's also true for Udio, where I created songs. And I actually got really into creating songs for a couple of like 2 months or something. I created a whole bunch of songs, and then I found another service where I could upload those to like Spotify. And so I just created a bunch of music and uploaded it to Spotify. So I could listen to it on my Spotify account. It was kind of fun.
So here's kind of like the reverse question. Like, say maybe you're working on a textbook and you're using ChatGPT to, you know, do the editing and, you know, check grammar, just kind of like some initial stuff. Once you put your work or your property into ChatGPT or one of these systems, does it become a part of its broader knowledge? You know what I mean? Like, say you have a new idea that you're putting in there. Is that now a new piece of information that ChatGPT is going to use to generate for other people?
Yeah, and again, I think in privacy, you could say don't train on the information I upload, but you have to, for each service, look at their terms of service. So just download them, store them on your drive, and ask questions about them in ChatGPT. And ChatGPT will analyze its own terms of service. And but I believe you own everything you want, like 99% certainty you own everything you upload, but they have the right to train on it if you know, and there's a setting for you to be able to control whether or not they're training on it. But the broader idea of what you're sharing is fear of piracy for intellectual property. And if I have a really unique, innovative idea, is somebody going to steal that? And the reality of somebody stealing ideas is, one, really minuscule. It does happen, but super minimal. And also the reality that other people already have that idea is a reality. And the greater threat is not somebody knowing your idea or stealing your idea, but your idea actually not making it out in the world. And so the greatest objective for an entrepreneur isn't to protect their idea from being stolen, but to promote their idea to everybody as much as they can, whether you're writing a book. And if somebody steals your idea, whatever, right? You move forward. But the hardest thing in the world is to actually get an idea, or one of the hardest things in the world is to actually get an idea into the world. So I have this idea of like age of understanding. That's what this new era should be called that we're moving into. there's probably 1,000 other people out of the 8 billion who have that same idea.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, if I write a book and I gain public consciousness about that idea, then I will be the one that people will say Todd McLeod came up with the idea of Age of Understanding. But there's probably 1,000 other people who came up with it, and maybe somebody else will come to the forefront before I ever got a book out there, if I ever got a book out there. So don't worry about your ideas being stolen. Worry about your ideas not gaining prominence.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Todd.
Yeah.
Todd, I will follow up on Gerard a little bit. Hey, Gerard. And that is, you can't copyright an idea. So number one.
Yeah.
So you can't copyright ideas. However, Gerard, if you were engaged in writing a book with a publisher, okay, they're going to have all sorts of restrictions of what you can or cannot do with that, because they're going to be the ultimate controllers of the content. So you're going to need to make sure that whenever you're getting to your sensitive areas, like an employment relationship with a publisher or whatever, read the fine print, ask those questions, because there's going to be lawyers involved. When I started at City College, for the first 10 years, I went to every intellectual property seminar that was put on and all the breakout sessions around the state. And so I got pretty knowledgeable. It's now some of my stuff is dated, whatever, okay. But the concept of what you're asking is right on, which is, where does the rights start and where do they end? And when I place something out into a public area, then I still have some control to a certain degree, but it may take legality to enforce the control. So read the fine prints or whatever. I think Todd's hitting the right marks and stuff in terms of, you're right, these are ideas, and we want to see the industry. We're all nervous, and at the same time we're excited, which is a really weird thing for our industry, okay? Because we see both sides, and we're not sure how the pieces are going to get, and this is a long-term process. So Gerard, I just wanted to echo, great question, and Todd, good answer.
All right, thank you guys.
All right, anything else?
Todd, when you do all these, do you use your school email or your personal email?
I'm pretty like, you know, my life is like I keep personal and work really separated. And so I like to keep all my tools on personal, because I will use them for personal stuff. And so I don't want school paying for my ChatGPT, because I'm using ChatGPT for all kinds of stuff. And then I'll just also use that for work. And it's same with my laptop. You know, like I buy my own laptop because I use my laptop for work, but then I also use it for personal stuff, like doing my bookkeeping or whatever. And so, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, I keep it pretty separated. Does that make sense? Was that your question?
Yes, thanks, Todd.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Todd, I just added a link to AI resources from the FCC AI task force.
Yeah.
That's there in the chat for
Cool.
anyone who's interested.
Thank you.
And it's in Canvas. It's in Canvas. So I think you have to be logged in for it, but the link should take you there, and there's quite a bit of material there to get started in.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, John. All right. It's been a pleasure. Have a great weekend. I wish you all a wonderful semester, and have fun, and tell your students they're doing a great job, and encourage them. When I first started at City College, my mentor was Kenny Hallstone, and he was a professor of psychology in 2020 or 2000, sorry, in 2000. And he really taught me the importance of making sure that we give our students as much encouragement as possible, because we're working with a lot of people who don't always believe that they can do what they're doing, first generation students. You know, who knows what backgrounds they're coming from. But, you know, have a great semester and encourage your students and infuse into them the belief that they got this, that they could do it, that they could earn their bachelor's degree or their master's degree or their doctorate. And I've just found that sharing with students that positive encouragement is really profoundly impactful for a lot of people. So I wish you a great semester, and encourage you to encourage your students to do a wonderful job and achieve success, and that they can do it. Thanks, everybody.